Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. A couple of days after 20 were killed as a result of distressed building collapse in the Lagos Island area of Lagos State, another building collapsed accident occurred in the Molete area of Ibadan, Oyo State, with several people injured. Joining us this morning to speak on building best practices is the former president of Nigerian Institution of Structural Engineers, a division of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Samuel Ilugbekhai. Welcome to our program.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we've heard collapsed building in Lagos Island last week, not the first in that area. We've heard of collapsed building in Ibra, Lekki. We've heard of synagogue. We've heard of Ibadan, also last week. Now, what is your first reaction as a structural engineer and a former president of the Nigerian Institution of Structural Engineers?
Well, my first reaction will be that it is totally disheartening to structural engineers for structures to fall the way they have been doing in our country, Nigeria, like a pack of cards. It is embarrassing to us. It is very unfortunate. And it seems with time, the situation is becoming more saddening, especially in line with the most recent one, where innocent school children who went to school died. So it's like the situation is even deteriorating and becoming worse.
Well, I want to speak specifically on Lagos Island, and I want to ask you about the lifespan of buildings. But let's listen to what the governor-elect of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, said about that when he visited President Muhammadu Buhari just yesterday.
You know, Lagos, it's part of the old colony of Lagos. So it's not unexpected that you see houses that are over a century old and in those numbers. But we need to be sincere to ourselves, you know, and we need to be real and know that Lagos truly, really needs regeneration, especially Lagos Island. And that's some of the things we've promised on a campaign trail. So it's to have a conversations right around all of the families, and we see the kind of redevelopment that is important has been done in a lot of other big cities like Lagos.
So basically he was talking about the lifespan of buildings in Lagos Island and how they've been for almost a century. What is the lifespan of a building?
On the average, 50 years, 100 years in between. But the buildings in question, like the one that just collapsed, the school building, we're told was just about 25.
So it is not how old the building is, really. That is the problem here that we are witnessing in Lagos Island, is it?
Certainly.
So what exactly is the problem then?
You will need to embark on what I would call a scientific approach to determine and to confirm. But the fact that you have these failures or these collapses happening within the same area with such a high frequency, it tells you that there's something wrong within that area. After all, there are old buildings that are standing there. Even the high-rise buildings that are more than 25 years that are standing. You know, whereas you're having low-rise buildings collapsing. So it tells you that something is wrong, one, within the environment, and two, with those structures that are collapsing. And the pointer straight away is that something has not been done right. If a high-rise building is standing and then a smaller building is collapsing, it tells you that something has been done wrong. And from the graphics which we have been seeing, even you as a layman, you can see that this is not healthy or this is not good to live in.
What you're saying now is the site from yesterday. The building, there was a lot of controversy. Did it collapse? Did it not collapse? The government official statement says it did not collapse. It was marked for demolition. Scavengers went into the building, were trying to drag out doors, and it came down on them. Is that possible? And then you look at where that building stood and look at the surroundings. What does this really say? I mean, they're so close. I wonder if the windows could be opened.
The planning is totally wrong. Although that is left for the architects and the planners to defend as to why it is like that. You can see that from one window, children can easily exchange towels or materials from one house to the other. In fact, they can even wake up in the morning and shake hands with each other across the window. So there's something wrong there. Then looking at the structures themselves, you can see reinforcements, the iron rods in some of those buildings. That is what we call spalling of concrete. You know, the cover to the reinforcement is falling off. And when that happens, you see that the iron rods there, let me use the language you understand, which we call reinforcement, they are rusted already. When they rust, it means that they will lose their capacity, their ability, their strength to carry the structures, for which they are placed there. That further weakens the entire fabric of the structure. So these are all dangers looming to happen. And it's not doomsday prophecy to say that more buildings are going to collapse in that very place if the government does not actually enforce the action it has embarked on.
All right, you've mentioned the buildings and the collapses are more residential than probably industrial buildings.
No, not necessarily residential.
Yeah.
So you have high rise and then you have low to medium. This particular problem is more around the low.
Low to medium.
Yes.
But that's where my question is going to.
Yes.
Because from all the building collapse we've seen in the last 2-3 years, more have been residential as against buildings that are official.
Of office buildings,
and
yes.
the question is, what are we missing here? Is it the attention that is being given to a particular building because it is meant to be used for an official or industrial purpose as against a building that is meant to be used for residential purposes?
I wouldn't want to classify them along the line of whether residential or official or corporate. I want to classify them according to, how they were done. There are residential buildings that are solid, that have kept faith with destiny, that have stood the test of time, and they are still there. Houses that have been handed down from generation to generation. Then there are office buildings also, that have stood the test of time. And if you go through the history of collapse of buildings, yes, I mean, sometimes some office buildings have also had their own, collapse issues, like the Cocoa House in Ibadan of those days. You see it. But what we are talking here about is that, the frequency of these low to medium rise buildings coming down like a pack of cards. Not that maybe an element of the structure had issues and then something happened. No, an entire building coming down. If you have a good picture of that and you play it over in your heads, you go back to this school building that collapsed and you say 20 children died. With the way that building came down, where are the survivors? How many people survived such a building? Do you know what it means for a building to fall down on children? How will they survive? There's a lot of work for you people to do. A lot of work.
So, okay,
let's look at your own work.
Thank you.
As a structural engineer.
Yes.
Now, how come all these buildings get off the ground without the input of structural engineers? Is it that we don't have enough structural engineers in Nigeria? Or is it that the structural engineer prices himself beyond the reach of average builders?
I will answer that question from the built environment professionals angle. There are principally about 7, from the surveyor down through the town planner, the architect, the engineers, and the quantity surveyor, and all that. almost everybody along the line is shortchanged or avoided. You see, when things are going well in the built environment, everybody is a professional. But when the repercussions come in, suddenly you begin to identify who is a requisite professional in what area or the other. There is a procedure for the production of a building. You start from your land, your survey, which must fall within an area that has been planned by a town planner, zoned according to what the use is going to be. Maybe this area is residential, this area is school or official or whatever. Then you procure the services of an architect to design to your own brief. After the architect's job, the structural engineers comes in to give the strength that will make that building stand for life. So if you look at it from the point of view of creation, it is a structural engineer that breathes life into the architect's concept that makes it stand. And for every day a building stands, the structural engineer who designed it is at work. So for a building to come down completely, the way they are doing it, like a pack of cards, I repeat again, means that something sinister has gone wrong with structural engineering. Now, are structural engineers expensive? Of course, no. Like every other professional, if I want to procure your services now, you have a price. And I have a right to bargain with you. If we come to a compromise, of course, I will engage your services. If you don't, I seek the services of another professional colleague of yours. I cannot leave you and go and now engage the services of a pepper seller to do your work for me. There, it is my problem. And if I may ask you, is there a mother who will say, because a pediatrician is expensive, take her baby to a carpenter to treat? Is there a mother that will do that? Thank you very much.
Okay. When you look at the statistics available on collapsed buildings, we see more of that happening in the southwest region of the country. You mentioned something about investigating the environment. Does this have anything to do with the soil pattern, perhaps, that we have in the southern part of the country? And, Lagos Island in particular, where we're seeing majority of these buildings in Lagos collapse. Yes,
there's something to do with terrain. Don't forget that the history of Lagos Island revolves around a swampy area. You see it. And depending on the type of building you are going to produce, you have to adopt the appropriate foundation that will carry it throughout its duration. And that brings us to, the question of the job of the structural engineer. The job of the structural engineer is in 3 phases of life. But what a lot of clients, focus on is on the immediate phase. You just procure the services of a quack. He does that thing for you. You are satisfied momentarily. But the job of a structural engineer, goes beyond that. It is both immediate, futuristic, and probabilistic. In the sense that the man you acquire from the street, yes, even you, a lot of clients are fond of this. Say, is it not just to put block here, do foundation, do this? You need to see a lot of clients on site. Even you, a professional, in fact, you need to stand your ground. On several locations, I've had to walk out of sites for clients. Not illiterate clients, clients who went to school. Because you may want to say, the person doesn't know. A man who went to school, who is well positioned in society, pushing you, trying to, cajole you as a professional to take a wrong professional decision. You leave the money and walk away. Not once, not twice. You understand what I'm trying to say? So the job of the structural engineer is immediate, futuristic, and probabilistic. The immediate one is to satisfy you, the clients. A lot of clients are just satisfied. If you say you want this studio now, you say, yes, I just want to do it like, put block here, put this, and all that. No. The structural engineer thinks beyond what is immediate to you. He looks at your tomorrow. Tomorrow, my client may want to say, okay, business is so good, we are expanding. can we just put a floor on top? The structural engineer takes that into consideration. So he prepares for it, especially in our own kind of environment where we do not respect what we call usage. So we prepare for it. So tomorrow if you call me, SKI, please come, I want to see, I say no problem, sir. That my no problem as a professional is not just ordinary. It is because at the back of my mind, I have satisfied all the statutory requirements of the codes of practice, of which Nigeria has our own national building code. You understand me? Then I can say, okay, go ahead. Maybe next time you call me and say, can we add another floor? I say, no, sir. You say, go away, you are not a good structural engineer. What is it? Another person assures you, and you go ahead. It will not happen immediately. It will keep carrying on, you know, redistributing its energies, trying to cope with all what you are doing to it, until one day it says, Oga, look, I am tired, I can no longer cope. And it gives way. So that is the futuristic side of it. Now, what is the probabilistic one? The structural engineer also takes into consideration the probability of that structure ever failing and tries to minimize it as much as possible. And what does he do? He says, okay, fine. Even if my client decides to misuse this structure, I still give the chance, maybe 50% chance that even if he adds another thing, at least it will last for so long and fulfill its design life. All these are things the structural engineer does to make sure that you get adequate service from his services. Benefits from his services. And in all of this, the principal and first consideration, which a structural engineer takes into mind, is safety. You are seated comfortably here now because structural engineering has been done well. If you hear a crack on this wall now with what is happening in Lagos Island today, my brother, you skate through this window, not minding what is outside there. What does that portend? Nigerians may start going into buildings with psychological trauma, fear. You are going into a building as a reporter who has researched into these things now. You are now a moving question mark. Oh boy, is this place, how do you see it?
That brings me to a very particular question. What are the red flags we should always look out for when you come into a building? What should you see that would begin to worry you and begin to call the attention of authorities that this building is unsafe?
Thank you very much. In the days of, traditional finish, when I say traditional finish, you build a house, you plaster it, and all that. Your plastering can give away a building in the sense that it will translate the stress the building is going through into cracks. I don't know if you understand me. You will see cracks, and cracks are of different patterns. You understand me? As a trained structural engineer, if I see a crack on your wall, I can interpret it according to the norms of the profession. So cracks you will see and run away, I'll say, no, these are just surface cracks. These are not structural cracks. These are crocodile cracks. These are diagonal cracks depicting so and so. But in these days of aluko-bond architecture, if there's a big crack on this wall and your architect has placed aluko-bond on it, the house is going, but you are seeing an aluko facade. Your aluko facade is telling you that the building is in order because you are not seeing what is happening behind it. So
tips.
So the traditional finish system is where you can actually get tips. With the modern system of finishing, you may not be able. But to answer that in a way that at least somebody can take something home, cracks are indicative, are signs that something is actually going wrong with a structure, which if you interpret may not be so serious or could actually be indicate disasters waiting to happen. Another one is you get into some buildings, like the buildings in Lagos Island. You are walking inside. It's like the ground is vibrating. Your weight is like you are hearing, as if you are moving on top of a void. It tells you that there's a separation between the floor and the ground inside. especially on swampy grounds. You know, you watch out. Then you see some buildings with what we call rising dam. You know, the walls, you just see water all over, right, in Surulere and some of all those areas. Let's say up to about 5 feet, something like that. And if you touch the plastering again on the walls there, you can just peel them off. It's like powdery. That is what you see on Lagos Island, where as you are even as they are even trying to demolish the buildings, you see with a single blow, the whole wall goes and it turns into powder. So these are some little tips. Then even in a building that you feel is well built, you just scratch the wall and the plastering is giving way. It tells you that there's something wrong, you know. And then visually you can also see a building leaning. Such a building has not been designed to tilt, but you see that the building is inclined, is heading one way. It means that the building has rotated. Instead of standing vertically, the building has moved at an angle. It tells you that there's something wrong. If the building is actually an entirely stiff structure, in the sense that from the building you are seeing on the surface, which we refer to as the superstructure, and then the foundation in the ground, if they actually act in unison, it means that the one you are seeing and the foundation have all moved. If the upper structure you are seeing does not move with the foundation, it means that the upper structure has moved and the foundation is still where it is.
Like with this one we're seeing on the screen, you see the smaller building seems to be leaning. Is that what you're referring to?
Exactly. Exactly.
Great.
That's what it is. And you have a lot of this around Akpogbon area. Around that bridge and all that, you have quite a lot of them.
Now, from what you have just said, it's like the attitude of the average Nigerian builder is to cut corners. You don't want to use the right professional. You circumvent the right professional. You assume that every builder who has been building with his father from time immemorial has now gotten enough experience to put up a building. So what do you suggest should be the nature of enforcement of having the right professionals doing their job on major buildings?
I will answer that, but I would need to correct the question properly, because within the built environment, there's a professional that is called a builder. You understand me?
Yes.
But within the context of your question, somebody who wants to develop a property, is the client. The problem is multifold. Some owners of property, some clients, set out deliberately to cut corners. The example I just gave you, I had to walk out of a project. I left my pay and everything. I walked away. Because I said, this is the specification I have designed using the codes of practice. The client came one morning and said, his friend told him that when he was doing, it was a staircase matter, a cantilever staircase, a staircase that is shooting out almost 2 meters. And I designed it according to the codes of practice. He said, no, his own friend's staircase was done with only 6 inches slab. I said, then call your friend to come and build the staircase for you. In the first instance, your friend's staircase does not even have a cantilever. Yours, because you want good aesthetics, your architect has designed for you a staircase, a stair hall that is cantilevering at almost 2 meters, going up to go and carry your water tank. For goodness sake, even if you are paying me all the monies I need in this world, I leave your structure for you. And I did. You must go with your professional integrity. You understand what I'm trying to say? Now, so clients set out to cut corners. Some professionals do also, because I'm not going to hold brief for them. Otherwise, you will not have some of all these buildings coming up. To forestall this kind of approach to development, enforcement of supervision. After you have gotten approval from the requisite ministries to build, there is supposed to be a follow-up by professionals, paid for by government. Yes, because the ministries cannot cope with the job alone. They cannot. Look at what what LAPSCA is having in its hand. If LAPSCA is to pull down all the bad buildings in Lagos, how many staff do they have? You will need to staff them more. Like I said last week, you need to staff them more, give them more vehicles, give them more money. You know, government should outsource that, engage the services of professionals who are out there. Zone the whole Lagos state into areas. Okay, you, these professionals that live here, be the moving question mark in this area. As you are driving out of your house to go to work every day, if you see any building that looks improper, report. And there's a body that is already doing that in the background very, very accurately. The Building Collapse Prevention Guild. Yes, they are doing that. But their effort is limited. The BCPG is a body, is a body that comprises all the professionals in the built environment, putting their personal resources together because of their love for the profession to make sure that buildings do not collapse. Government can take that as a corporate social responsibility. Fund these exercises. Fund the Nigerian Institute of Structural Engineers. Equip the structural engineers in Nigerian Institute of Structural Engineers to be able to do more of what they are supposed to do. If you do that, we can nip in the bud anything that would have translated to the possibility of a building collapsing. And then this fire brigade approach will cease. Okay, now, imagine all the children that died. What amount of punishment are you going to give to a landlord or a building owner that will bring the children back? They can never come back. And like I told you, I'm suspicious of that number, 20. Thank you.
Well, you talked about nipping in the bud, and we look at structures across the country, not just houses. One recurring challenge seems to be maintenance.
Yes.
Do you think that perhaps a better maintenance culture could have averted some of the building collapse we're seeing? And as a structural engineer, I want to ask you, is it possible to correct some of the defects in the building, even when you notice it? Must it go down?
Thank you very much. It is possible to redeem a building that is in a bad state. But when buildings get to the level they are on Lagos Island, they are beyond redemption. Because even the effort you will make to redeem them, because you are going to, what we are talking about principally is you want to strengthen the building. The effort you will make to strengthen those buildings will bring the buildings down. So if, for instance, let's say I had a block of flats. You understand me? A block of 4 flats, you know, which I had actually done as a younger engineer. There was this block of 4 flats. The client, because of need to increase value, wanted extra floors over and above the block of 4 flats, which was just ground and first floor. In other words, the client wanted to do vertical expansion. The architect had done the designs and everything. As a structural engineer, of course, I did that. And he's standing, he's there, in Park Lane at Apapa. Don't forget that the Apapa terrain, most of it is also swampy, just like Lagos Island we are talking about. But he's there. You need to get the structural engineering right. You need to follow the principles of structural engineering. At that point, you are not talking of electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, or maybe the architect does his work and leaves it for you. Say, oh, God, structural engineer, my own, I have done it. I want 2 additional floors on this building without any wahala. I can go and sleep. Do your job. At that point, the structural engineer is on his own. You have to now go back to the principles of structural engineering, apply them, do your analysis. In fact, first of all, you conceptualize the approach you are going to use as a structural engineer. Then you do your analysis, you do your design, you do multiple designs based on what I just mentioned earlier about now, about the future, and about the probability of failure. All the analysis you will do and the various concepts you come up with, you know, will give you different results for each of these analysis. And then at the end of the day, you choose the one that best, you know, covers these three areas of reasoning, and you adopt it. And that building is there today. You know, so it's very possible to strengthen an existing building. But like I said earlier, once it has reached the stage, most of those buildings are in Lagos Island, they are beyond redemption. They just have to come down. But one good thing I'm happy about is the thinking of the governor-elect, Sanwo-Olu. Yes, I was so happy when he mentioned the fact that he is going to look at urban renewal. That is where to go. You know, give this exercise a human face. I'm saying it again to government, give this exercise a human face. That building you are trying to pull down belongs to somebody. You understand me? I'm not holding brief for the owners of the building. Neither am I putting the government on the spot. Do create a win-win situation to the exercise, you know, so that the building owner and the government can, you know, parley side by side, reach a good agreement, you know. And how to go about it is, okay, if you had, okay, look at those buildings. How much do you think the people will be paying as against a proper building within the neighborhood? This will be far, far cheaper than a good building within the same neighborhood. The man who is living in this place is taking the risk of paying lesser and living in a bad house.
The question is, are there any good buildings in these areas?
Of course, there are good buildings on Lagos Island. Yes, there are good buildings on Lagos Island. So aggregate them together, you know, work out a win-win solution, you know, involving the owner of the building and government. And then do it in such a way that at the end of the new development, you give them something. You understand? Because to ask these people to bring money to come and pay for one thing or the other, it may be a bit difficult.
All right, sir. Looking at it as a structural engineer,
yes, sir.
What do you think people do? What are the practices people are engaging in probably residential buildings or any kind of building that probably compromises the integrity of the building? Good. What are those things that people do that you see and you always, that you feel this should not be doing, and what should they not even do at all?
Thank you very much. Number one, we said cutting of corners, the use of substandard materials. You go to the market, you see the right iron rods that have been prescribed for you, even when somebody, a structural engineer, has worked for you. You understand me? You go to the market, instead of you to buy the right iron rods, for instance, you go and buy the bad one that is cheaper. That's number one. You go and buy cement that is not good. Substandard cement, rebag. You've heard of rebag cement, you are in Nigeria, as against sandbags of cement.
What do you mean by rebag? Cement
that has been exposed that are repacked. You understand me?
Not from the factory.
Not from the factory, of course not. Sandbags come from the factory. There are sharp practices in the market. You know, they open them, they do all sorts of things with them. Maybe cement that has expired. Cement has life. You know, they rebag them, and then and then you deliberately go and buy them. Then that is one. Number two is you now come, your engineer has specified for you, for this very element of your structure, use grade 15 concrete. You understand me? Use grade 15 concrete, which in those days when we used to, in fact, you know, before now we used to give concrete mixes, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 6, this, and all that. It was because of abuse. We now say, okay, change the nomenclature, and then we now work in grades. And then you go there, you go and adopt your own mix. You say, this is waste of cement. Engineer, please come. Oh, this cement is too much. I've seen clients doing that on site. Engineer, please come. I've got to report. This same project I worked out of, I've got to report that you are wasting our cement on this site.
Not to interrupt you, but when people do this, do they stay in these buildings? This people sharp practices, like the example you gave. Did the client stay in this building where he was cutting corners?
Of course.
So he understood the risk.
Yes.
But still stayed in the building.
Yes. That is it. Some will stay, some will not stay. Some may just be building for commercial purpose for others to come and stay. You know? So if a professional has designed for you, see it through. If an architect has designed your house as a 2-bedroom bungalow, which you requested for, or maybe a block of 4 flats, which you requested for, don't come out of your own volition and say, I don't like the size of this sitting room, without referring back to him. Then you just get to decide to tell your workers to increase the bedrooms. You could be causing problem. You know?
Where I was even going with my question was things like overpopulation. How does it affect buildings? So people say that loud music sometimes can wobble a structure.
Yes.
All these things. Those were the areas I was going to. Yeah. What do the everyday people that live in buildings that might even be well built?
Yes.
What do they do that can probably weaken the structure?
Exactly. Now let me take it from the point of the area you are going is what we refer to as usage. Mm-hmm. I have designed, your architect, I still go back to the architect because it's not just the job of the structural engineer. Like I told you, there are about 7 professionals involved in the production of your building. Now, your architect has designed a residential block of flats for you. You understand me? He rented the buildings out. He doesn't stay there. I mean, the owner rented the building out. And then the person who rented the building now decides to use his flat as a gym. As a gym. Brings in treadmills, brings in vibrators, brings in all the, the regular gym equipment, place them there. And then it's a public gym for that matter, not even a private one. So every day, people come and be running on the treadmills. You understand me? The structure would not have been analyzed by the structural engineer for that purpose. You understand me? Load. You are moving on it consistently. Whereas as a residential building, it will just be light traffic, a family moving inside the house, and no equipments are not there and things like that. That is one aspect. Change of use. You have changed the use of that building from residential to not just commercial, you understand me now, to a sports facility. If you told your architect from the word go that you were going to use that place as a sports facility, he will indicate it in his drawings. And the structural engineer will go to the codes, the relevant sections of the codes of practice and say, what loading does the code specify for a sporting facility? It is different from what the code specifies for a residential facility. I can give you an example. For your basic residence, you can do 1.5 Newton per square mm. And this even takes into consideration children running around, daddy and mommy playing with the children, everybody, happy, running up and down. It's covered. But for you to design that same facility as a sports facility, you may be looking at 5. That is about times 3 plus. I don't know if it answers your question.
Yes, you do.
So the structural engineer designs according to what the architect has said the building is going to be used for. Another one is this, which a lot of clients will need to listen to. Let's say the architect has designed this as a studio, quite all right. Mm-hmm. Yes, this studio we are in now. Then you now come, maybe the MD comes and say, no, or the production manager comes and say, no. For a standard studio to meet with our own in-house requirements, we need a door that is about 4 times the width of this door. In other words, the door has to extend from this end to the other end, unobstructed. For this same structure we are sitting in. You understand me? If you do that without recourse to your structural engineer, that is big trouble. Because if this was just a 1 meter opening, you have a little lintel above it. You know what a lintel is now? It's a beam that carries, that is run over that space so that it can stay open and carry the load on top so that it can serve as a door. If you now increase it from this end to that end, you are going, maybe you are not making that space as open as 6 meters, which is possible. If this opening was 1 meter, what you have done inadvertently is to increase the load on that beam 36 times. 36 good times. Because the moment on that simply supported lintel, which is WS squared over 8, your L alone, which is the span, which was 1 meter, has now gone to 6. And it's L squared, which is times 36 instead of times 1. So by the owner just taking that decision on site, you understand me? You have increased the load on this beam 36 times. That is danger waiting to happen. Serious one.
But some other professionals can help in taking that decision, and perhaps without necessarily bringing in the structural engineer, and do what you have just recommended.
That is quackery. I cannot go to a site now and take architectural decision on behalf of the architect without reverting back to him. Quackery is not just when maybe a layman goes to do a professional thing. When a professional colleague does another professional colleague's job, you understand, without recourse to that professional colleague who did the design originally, it's quackery.
So there's a lot of quackery going on in the building industry.
Exactly, yes.
Because one professional fits all.
It doesn't happen. It shouldn't be.
It's what is going on.
It shouldn't be. And that is why the built environment, like I told you, the built environment is getting more and more better organized. Yes. At least presently as we speak, I've mentioned BCPG to you. The surveyor is there, the planner is there, the architect is there, the quantity surveyor is there, the structural engineer is there, the electrical engineer is there, the mechanical engineer is there. You understand me now? And everybody, you see it. As I listed them, everybody plays their role one after the other. You do yours, you hand it over. The other man does his own, hands it over. Just like that until the building is done. And that was why I made that clarification about builder. The builder is a requisite professional in the built environment.
About when some people have experience, on the job experience, they've been building for people, they've been building for themselves,
yes,
they've been building for their family members over the years.
Yes.
And they are not professionals and they've been good building.
Even you who is a trained professional on your own job, you can make a mistake. And that is why it doesn't take anything. Please, Oga structural engineer, we have this change of space at site. And what do you think we should do? Of course, we advise you. It's not every time you go to see your doctor that you have, your doctor will have to ask you to pay the consultation fee, this. You have built there must be a relationship. There must be, because if there's no relationship, it means that you are trying to cheat. You are trying to cut corners. There must be a relationship with your professionals that are working for you. So even you declined, you pick up your phone. Oga structural engineer, I want this space 6 meters instead of 1 meter. You say, oh, really? Rule of thumb, I will sit in this studio, immediately do this, do that, and advise him. I say, okay, change the reinforcement from so to so. Increase his in fact, give the phone to the carpenter. Ogbeni carpenter, do this, do that. Give the phone to the bricklayer, do this, do that. Give the phone to the iron burner, do this, In 5 minutes, that decision is taken. That will save lives for the entire life of that building.
So you say the built environment is getting better organized.
Yes.
And there are more professionals coming
together. Synergy. We are synergizing.
People will say, that the larger problem we are seeing is not even with the older buildings, but the newer buildings.
Yes.
And with so-called developers. So although the built space is getting better organized, we are seeing more defective new buildings. So something is not quite right.
Exactly.
And what is this?
Now, you see, it's difficult to break away from status quo. It's Newton's first law. You know, everybody wants to be where they are, the way it has been done. You know, this is how it was being done before we were born. This is how it will still be. Decking is 6 inches. The person knows it, and that is all you begin to go and do. No. Gradually, the impact of built environment professionals is penetrating the system. And with time, all these things you are mentioning will be a thing of the past. Because with all what we have been saying, in the past 1 week, I've had to be on television twice. I'm not being paid, but the blood of the innocent children that died in that school collapse is my pay. It's my motivation. So if a client hears me and still decides to go and do what he's doing, the client should be punished. And like I said, there is no built environment professional you will approach. Say, oh God, look, oh, I want to build this building. I know your fee, your professional fee is X naira. Can you help me to do it for A naira? And then the professional will say, go away. If you don't pay me my fee, I will not work for you. It is not true. It's not true.
I don't know if you have the figures. How many professional structural engineers do we have in Nigeria? And I'm asking if you have the number. Do you have the number?
No, I don't have the number
Okay.
right here. But I can look them up and we can share some other time.
So, like I said to some engineers who were on the show when we first had the Tafaji collapse, there's a lot of blame game that goes on when we have building collapses in the country. Professional bodies will blame quackery. What has an institution like yours or professional body like yours done to incorporate, you know, because you simply, I don't think that we could have enough professionals for any sector in the society.
Exactly.
So what has an institution like yours done to incorporate those you refer to as quacks?
Yes.
You know, who are the ones who do most of the job?
Now, the answer starts with training, the answer continues with training, and the answer ends with training. Training, training, training. When you advertise for people to come to be trained, how many come? That's another problem. How many do come? But the effort is still there. The effort is still there. That is one. Now, even at that proposal of training, you understand me? Do we have the necessary backing to be able to do that? In some countries, the practice of structural engineering alone, irrespective of other engineering careers, because engineering is a multi-professional profession. You understand me? A lot of professionals join together under one noun known as engineers. You understand me? What a lot of countries have done to take care of this problem, which we are facing in Nigeria here today, you understand me, is to back the practice of structural engineering with an act of parliament. Say, hey, we don't mind. Every other engineering, you stay where you are. Structural engineers, this law is for your professional practice given to your institution. Nigeria has not done that. The senators will be hearing me. The House of Representative members will be hearing me. State legislators will be hearing me. Even the Lagos state legislators will be hearing. They've not done that. If you come to the Nigerian Institute of Structural Engineers and say, look, this is the law backing your practice in Lagos, this problem will fizzle out overnight. But why would they not do it? They don't have the political good. They don't want to take advantage of the political goodwill to do it.
But have you proposed a law?
Of course, yes. We've done that several times. At least when I was national president of Nigerian Institute of Structural Engineers, several communiques were written, you know, proposing this. We even took the matter all the way to the National Assembly.
What was the response?
Nothing. I'm saying it so that senators will hear, because everybody is suddenly, grieving that children died. back the competent and professional practice of structural engineering in Nigeria with an act of parliament and give it to the Nigerian Institute of Structural Engineers. A lot of people want to say, oh, you want to make money. It's not about making money. That is where we are losing it. You understand me? What it means is that that law will say, for you to practice structural engineering, you will fall within the rules and regulations that are stated in the membership of the Nigerian Institute of Structural Engineers. And what is it? For you to qualify to be a corporate member of the Nigerian Institute of Structural Engineers, you will write the same exam which Institute of Structural Engineers UK give to their members, which is a 7-hour design exam. You will come to the institution and write that exam. Come with every book that you have. Come with anything you think will help you. It's an open book exam because it is practical and it is tailored first towards saving life and giving client economy.
Now, sir, we live in Africa and
Yes.
Nigeria, to be very precise, and because going through a particular paper that was being released by the Department of Architecture of the Covenant University in conjunction with the Department of Estate Management and Valuation of the Ogun State Institute of Technology.
Yes.
They alluded to black magic and charms as one of the causes of structural failure. That some people...
No, go ahead, because just finish. Sorry, I'm not laughing.
Because you're already laughing.
No.
Are they saying that sometimes the use of black magic and charms being put in buildings sometimes can cause a building to fail? As a structural engineer, do you agree with what
And as an African.
Yes, as an African. Do you agree with? But they say that. Okay, that, if I were to read it in. Okay, next up, they say in Nigerian context, some research also shows that charms and spiritual attack can lead to building collapse, even if the building is free from any structural defects. If there is an existing problem on the land issue or people fighting on a piece of land, some may go an extra mile by using charm or placing charms on the site of development while developing the building before completion, and it will collapse and no structural fault will be traced to it.
Have you experienced any of this?
Well, as first and foremost, I will answer from my faith point of view, because that's a matter of faith. My upbringing and my faith is Catholic, and as a child of God, that does not prosper where I walk.
So when you design...
Yes, it's covered by the blood of Jesus. It cancels all that.
Great.
You know, I can even qualify it better for you. Some say if they come with egg and cause the egg and use it to stone the building can catch fire overnight, the building can do this and all that. No. Boil the egg and let us eat it, my brother and sister.
Okay.
Now, as a professional, you understand me, as a professional, anything you are going to do it well.
Indeed.
Do it well. If your reinforcement is in place and your concrete is of the right grade according to the codes, and you saw to it that it was properly done at site, the workability and everything, you understand me, and you took your samples for laboratory testing at, let's say, the Lagos State Material Testing Laboratory, and they achieved the requisite strength within the prescribed number of days, my brother, you have done your job and your structure will stand. Otherwise, in the river, on the high seas where you have marine spirits would have been preventing the construction of bridges.
One of the things that brought this was, remember the synagogue?
Yes.
Just...
We would have to go, speaking about realities.
Yes.
Many thanks, Engineer
to
Samuel Ilugbekhai, for this morning, former president of the Nigerian Institution of Structural Engineers. Much appreciated. Your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Let us also tell you that we extended an invitation to the Lagos State government by inviting the Commissioner for Fiscal Planning and Urban Development, but they did not show up on the show.
They promised to come.
We'll be waiting for them
Yeah.
to come. And it's now time for a short break. When we return, we will review top stories on today's newspapers. Join us again.